certain laws. There are two laws that I always touch up on. And if you'd like to take notes, feel free. There is this online on things like my YouTube channel and Unified TV that I've shared as well if you want a sort of refresher copy of what you're about to watch, or you can watch these recordings. So I always start with two laws when it comes to manifestation. By the way, before I get to the two laws, let's make a differentiation between creation and manifestation. If energy cannot be created or destroyed, and that's a law, that's not an opinion. That's called the law of conservation. I think we all know that. So if energy cannot be created or destroyed, then how can we sit here and say that we're creating our own reality? That it just negates the basis of everything. Now, we could still use that word so long as we understand what it really means. You'll still hear me saying you create your own reality, but what I really mean by that is you access your own reality. Because if energy cannot be created or destroyed, that means that all infinite potential exists right here, right now, without time, without space. Law. Law number two, in addition to the law of conservation, is the law of vibration. The law of vibration states that you experience what you are in resonance with. How does a radio work? Very simply. 100.3 FM, 1010 AM. You know, all of those are certain frequencies that channels purchase, and they say we're going to host ourselves on this frequency, and us as the listeners have the tuner, and we tune to one over another, and when you align with that frequency, suddenly you can hear it. That's the law of vibration. So your vibration of being will dictate what you experience, pretty much. And these are very simple things. This isn't, you could turn it into all the crazy science behind it, but we're going to simplify all of this to make it super simple. And then we're going to show beyond just philosophy how to actually apply this. What does that really mean? Because philosophy is one part, and then application is another part. And if we do one without the other, we didn't really do much. So we're going to do both in this next whatever period of time we have together. So again, refresh. And I keep repeating myself on purpose. I do that because I want this to be remembered over and over again. I write my books the same way. Law number one, law of conservation, energy cannot be created or destroyed. Law number two, law of vibration, you experience what you are in resonance with. So what does that really mean? What that means is very simple. If energy cannot be created or destroyed, as we said, all realities exist right here, right now. And if you have the ability to experience what you're in resonance with, then all you really have to do is change your vibration of being, the tuning fork, and I'll explain how you do that in a second. You change your vibration of being to experience the channel of infinite potential. So there's a happy you, a sad you, a single you that feels like you're going to be alone for the rest of your life, and a person, a you that has, extraordinary experiences in relationships. There is a you with a poverty and lack mindset. There's a you with an abundance mindset with a lot of money in your bank account. All those things are equal realities. But now we have something called belief that comes in. So belief is actually what hinders us from reaching one thing over another. I'll give you an example. If I said, what day is it today? Monday. Okay. If I said on Tuesday, I'm going to go to the movie theater and watch a movie. Example A, or experience A. And I said, experience B, on Tuesday, I'm going to win the lottery of $300 million. Most people would say it's easy to go to the movies and it's really hard to win the lottery because statistics tell us X, Y, and Z. But when you go into the level that we're speaking about right here, this is like the quantum field. Quantum is infinite potential, everything happening simultaneously outside of time and space. It's not about the lottery or the movie theater. It's just experience A and experience B. It's the belief system behind how hard it is to tap into it that makes one harder or easier to do. So the like advanced version of what I'm sharing right now is truly being able not to create whatever you want, but to access that infinite realm in a guided way. Now, a lot of people say, well, I want to learn, I want to manifest. And I always say, well, you're already doing that. That's the life that you live. The job that you have, the relationship that you're in or not in, everything that you do on a day-to-day basis is your doing. It's your manifestation. The question is, are you doing it consciously or are you not doing it consciously? You're always creating. It would be a difference of, it would be saying like you're an artist. One artist is just pouring paint and hoping for a nice picture, and the other artist learned how to paint. So they can draw something that looks nice and paint something that looks, it's really simple. A movie director. One is just saying, okay, this light's going to be here and this camera's going to be here, and the other one went to school and learned the laws or the techniques of how to film. And you see the difference in the movies. Both are directing. One's just better at it because they learned how to do it. So how do you become that now conscious manifester in your life? You have to be aware of these laws. Again, these laws are not complex. So we went to the beginning, those two laws. The law of conservation and the law of vibration. Now the question is, if we know that infinite realities exist, and now the question that rises is, okay, if my vibration of being dictates which one I'm going to experience, then the next obvious question is, well, how do we tune, right? How do we change that vibration of being? How do we change that resonance? How do we take our hand, put it on the tuner, and move it from the rap channel to the country channel? That's the question that we need to answer. And there are many, 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 many different ways of doing it. So I'm going to break it up into two parts here. We're going to break it up into the internal world and the external world. And both you're going to see mirror each other with different techniques, because the internal world and the external world are not separate fundamentally. They're part of the same exact thing. We simply experience them as separate because of the way that our consciousness works. So we're going to start with the internal world. That's going to sound a little more philosophical with application. And then we're going to move into the external world of really, really easy things that you can do. My recommendation is use both all the time. So there's going to be like tips and tricks that I'm going to share with you that I found that have worked for me. Everything that I'm sharing over here, I'm sharing because I've had a certain experience. I asked a question, and it wasn't that hard to understand a solution. So I figured if you had that experience, let's share it to be able to have others have their own experiences in their own unique ways as well. So, internal world. Let's go to emotions, thoughts, words, beliefs, all these things. That's something that's going on within you, so-called, in our experience of being a human being. And one moment. And when you understand the connection between the dimension of thought to the dimension of words to the dimension of matter, is it no? Okay, to the dimension of matter. That's the dimension of matter. Basically, I'm going to make a big statement here, and then I'll break it down again. What's the difference between the word, a microphone, and a microphone? The difference is the vibration of the idea of a microphone. So the microphone exists as a word, the microphone exists as a thought, the microphone exists as a physical object. It exists as all these things. The only difference when you're moving between them, this isn't working, the only difference when you're moving between them is literally becoming an expert of shifting the frequency from one that is very high vibrational, less dense, to lower vibrational, not a bad thing, just lower vibration, more dense, you can touch it. That's the difference between them. So what you're going to learn right now is how to, that's what you're actually doing. I want you guys to understand what you're doing from the top down. You're going to be learning how to change the frequency of a thought or an object, a thought or a word or an emotion into a physical object, because they're one and the same. They're on the same spectrum of frequency. It's just a difference of vibration between the two. So let's go to words for a second. What you speak is extremely important, but it's not just because the words are important. It's because what words actually are. Words are an expression of something a whole lot bigger than a word. A word is an expression of your thoughts and your beliefs. So, big picture, we all, everybody sitting in this room, myself included, everybody in the world, has a certain program that we're working on. Some have a program that's more prone to happiness and joy and acceptance. Others have a program that's more prone to lack and just things that you may not prefer. But that's the program, the resonance that you're tuned to. That's what I mean by a program. The program you're tuned to is the program you're going to experience. I'm using a lot of different terminology to explain the same exact thing. So how do we change the program of your mind, because the program of your mind is creating what you experience as your life. And there's a cycle. And the cycle starts with first thoughts and beliefs. Then it goes to understanding that thoughts and beliefs, the expression of that, which makes up the program of your mind, which is a reflection of your life. So it starts and ends in the internal and the external. The thought and belief is the reflection of your external life. But let's go down that cycle for a second. From thoughts and beliefs, you have all these emotions that come up, and then bring you to the point of saying, okay, well, how do I know what my thoughts and beliefs are? Because if I'm going to reprogram something, I have to know what the program is. So it's much harder to try and understand your thoughts and beliefs because you could trick yourself in your mind. The easiest way to understand your thoughts and beliefs is to pay attention to the words that come out of your mouth. You can see words as a sort of microscope to the program of your mind, which is a reflection of your life. Because the words, when you're not trying to consciously speak in a certain way and you're just letting yourself be, you will know exactly where you're at. Then there are certain laws with words to understand, okay, if I understand that words are a microscope to my thoughts and emotions, or my thoughts and my beliefs, and the ultimate goal is to then change, in a way of acceptance, the thoughts and beliefs, how do we do that? Through words. Well, beyond words being an expression of thoughts and beliefs, you also have words being a literal resonance. When you speak something over and over and over again, it's like, smacking sand over and over and over again. The imprint will get deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper until it's not going anywhere because it's extremely deep, even if some sand comes in and tries to cover it up. So repetition of words, of conscious words, of words used in a way to be that programmer, that hacker of your own mind. It's like a spiritual form of hacking. That's what we're talking about here. Using words in a conscious way to imprint the very thing that's the reflection of your life, which is your thoughts and your beliefs. That's the idea here. So again, what you're learning here now in a different way is how do you hack that part of the world to do good? How do you hack that part of the world to be more productive? How do you hack yourself in a way that was once asleep that now you're becoming aware of how to be that programmer once again? So here are some of the laws when it comes to words. And it goes down to two formulas that are very simple that I just put together when I wrote this book that I'm going to share with you guys today. The first formula is called the I am formula. The I am formula is broken up into three different portions. The acronym that I came up with was SIP. And by the way, when I say I came up with this is not original. Let's make that very clear. I'm not the first one that came up with this. I'm not going to be the last one that speaks about it. I just came and brought what was already under the sun and out there in a unique way of, the way Jason did it. But I want to make it super clear that I'm not the creator of what you're hearing here. I'm just a messenger, just like we all are, just to touch up on that. So SIP, I am formula, conscious way of speaking. The S stands for subject, the I stands for implication, and the P stands for present tense. The point over here is to understand how to speak in a way that will help you access what you want to access. So what's the difference between a lucky person and an unlucky person? I don't believe in luck. I don't think that that's real. I think that luck is just a lack of understanding the laws of cause and effect and how certain things work, because nothing just happens. There's an order to things. If we can understand the order, it's not random anymore. There's an actual order to how things work.
Hey Jason, I didn't get the P.
P is present tense. So we'll break it down to make it simple. The subject that you focus on is the most important thing in the world. There are some people that unconsciously, because they weren't taught those laws of manifestation, accessing certain things, they say, I don't want to be sick anymore. What's the subject? Sickness. So again, beyond just talking about it as a word, I wanted to explain what that word is, why this is, in my eyes, science. It's not just a philosophy. Because the vibration of sickness is a different vibration than the vibration of the word health. Literally, you can measure that. One will give water or show water in a distorted way in its molecular formation, and another one will show it in a symmetrical, beautiful shape. So what does that tell us? What conclusion can we come down to? Beyond just saying this is a nice idea. Well, when you're focusing on sickness, it's more than just saying, oh, you're focusing on a word. You're radiating frequencies and vibrations all the time. It's a game. It's a game of energy. Learn how to play the game, you become a master. These are one of the basic rules over here. You focus on sickness, you experience and manifest and access that. Because that's the vibration of being through the word that you are now aligning with, like the radio. You're tuning. You just don't know that you're tuning to what you don't want to tune to. Your intention may be, I don't want to be sick, which the implication is I want to be healthy. But the real implication, the way the universe hears it in that biofeedback loop, is sickness. So that's number one, the subject that you focus on. Number two, the implication of that subject. Implication is very, very important. Words are not enough. It's just like painting is not enough if you have blue paint and red paint and yellow paint. You got to know techniques of how to stroke if you want to be a Picasso and be a good artist. That's the idea over here. It's not enough to have that paint in front of you. So it's great to have words. It's a whole other thing of how do we use those in a productive way. So implication is, what are you implying about the subject? So this is step two. Are you saying, I want to be healthy? Because if you're saying, I want to be healthy, then okay, we got part one down, but your wanting, your desire, means that you're not acknowledging or coming from the awareness that you already have that reality right now. You may not be experiencing it because of where you're at, but in this very moment, if you're sick, there is a version of you, a potential of you that can be healthy. So by saying, I want to be healthy, by praying for something that you want, this is also a lesson on prayer. The feedback loop that you're going to be entering is of more wanting of that very thing. It's a step closer. It's better than saying, I don't want to be sick. But we want to be on the money. We want to be on the dot of how to do that. So the implication is, for example, the universe does not hear the word not. If you're using the word not in a sentence like this, you're automatically focusing on the wrong subject, because you can't use the word not and focus on the subject that you want. That's not how the English language works, at least. Maybe in other languages you can, I don't know, but not in English. We're speaking in English here. So you can't use the word not. The words will and want, it's putting it there, it's putting it out, it's saying I don't have it, and it's saying it's not here right now, which means that anybody that would use those words doesn't understand the first two laws that we started this workshop with. The law of conservation and the law of vibration. This isn't a complex thing to be able to comprehend. It comes down to the basics of those two laws that, in my opinion, everything else branches off of. So far, that's what I've seen. Anything that I've learned so far comes back to those two laws. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, and everything exists right here, right now. You just have to tune to that reality. You have to change your resonance and do that. So right now we're focusing on how do you change that resonance through words. So implication, back to the SIP, subject implication of your subject, needs to imply with the awareness that it's already here, it's already now, you're already having the potential to tap into it. And P is present tense, which also ties into implication. State it in your present tense. So now, does an I am formula mean that you have to say I am? No, it doesn't. I just called it the I am formula. You could say thank you for blessing me with health. That's an I, that fits the criteria of the I am formula. You could say I'm grateful for the ability for my body to heal itself. Everything hits those points. But now there are some people that say, well, wait a second. If you're saying I am healthy and you have cancer, isn't that denial? And the answer is yes and no. Depends where you're coming from. Because it's a very good question. When somebody asked me that, I said, I don't know what to answer that until I thought about it a little deeper. It's denial if you don't, and this is my opinion, it's denial if you don't understand the basic foundations that we're coming from, those laws. Because the law says, the law of conservation, the law of vibration, as we said 10 times already, if energy cannot be created or destroyed, and you experience what you're in resonance with, then saying I am healthy is not in denial unless you're not aware of the fact that that healthy potential doesn't exist. If you're not aware of that and you're saying I am healthy, that's called denial. If you're aware of the foundations of how certain things work, that's called manipulation in a positive way. That's called manifestation in a positive way. That's called accessing what you want in the ways that you understand with those universal laws. So that's like the denial paradox or principle, if you want to speak about that. So again, just to recap, SIP, subject, implication, present tense. Those are the three components of that first formula. But now I started asking myself, wait a second, is that enough? Maybe there are more things that we need to focus on, because what's the difference between the person that manifests the reality of going to the movies tomorrow and the person that manifests the reality of winning the lottery tomorrow? It can't just be subject, implication, present tense. There must be some way to boost it to make it even stronger. And that's where the second formula came in. So the second formula is broken up into a three-part acronym called IBV. IBV is intention, belief, and visualization. Think of this as like the booster shot of the vaccine, only if it actually worked. That's the idea. It boosts what you're trying to do. It makes it stronger. IBV is intention, belief, visualization. So now we're going to connect each one back to the first formula to give the highest probability of making the first thing that you would be doing even stronger. Now, today you may be writing this down. If you do this enough, to me, at this point, and it hasn't been long, I'm still very young, let's remember that, maybe a year and change of doing this over and over again, I don't think about it anymore. It became a part of the program. That's the goal, where this isn't something that you have to, it's like when you started driving a car. Consciously, the brain can learn 7 different things at the same time. That's the science behind it. So when you're driving a car, nobody should do this, but when you first started driving a car, if you tried paying attention to the blinker and both mirrors and the mirror on the top and seeing what's going on and shifting the gear and texting, you'd probably crash. But today, because you guys have been driving for a long time, it's illegal and you shouldn't do it, but you could text. You understand? That you could text. And hopefully you don't, but you could. Something you couldn't do when you first started learning it. That's the principle that I'm trying to share here, just in that funny analogy. But that's the idea over here of the more you do something, it becomes a part of the program. You know, if you've ever tried to do a Rubik's Cube, the first time I tried to figure it out on a YouTube tutorial, it took me like 11 hours. Then there are just programs of how you move and how to look at it. And it went from 11 hours to about 1 minute and 30 seconds. It came to, now I can't because I didn't do it for a few years, but it came to a point where I wouldn't even look. I would see it and do it. That's not a genius thing. That's just a program. That's all it is. You learn a program. The program becomes ingrained in your mind, and then you repeat the program over and over and over again. That's it. That's what everybody's doing all the time. So this is just another part of now a productive program that you're going to download. And as you download it, it just becomes a part of your day-to-day process. It becomes second nature. So IBV, intention, belief, visualization. Intention means your intention needs to be very clear. But intention is tied to the first formula of SIP. You can have an intention of wanting to be healthy, but if you say, I don't want to be sick, your intention's not enough. It's a good part of the equation. But I don't want to be sick, you could have all the intention you want. You are irradiating a frequency that's literally opposing what you're trying to do. So your intention needs to be in alignment with SIP, with the first formula, with the I am formula. Belief is probably one of the most important points over here. Your belief, which plays off of visualization, so the last 2 parts of this acronym, belief and visualization, go hand in hand, and if you don't have one, you can use the other to strengthen the other. I'll explain what I mean by that. Again, with that example of going to the movies on Tuesday, winning the lottery on Tuesday. Both are equally possible. Forget about statistics in the world that we experience it today. Experience A, experience B. It's a matter of moving to this experience and aligning with that one or aligning to that one. That's the difference between them. But because it's so hard to believe something like that, and I'll stand here and say it's hard for me to believe that too. Otherwise it would be happening. That's like an extreme of, I'm going to the extreme to try and teach a principle here. But belief is either the biggest limiting factor in the world or what will make you limitless. That's the point of how powerful belief is. It can either turn you into a person that can fly and do crazy things, or a person that can't do anything because your belief is stopping you. Belief is the foundation of absolutely everything. And if you don't have crystal clear belief, an undoubted belief in what it is that you're stating, then you can do the I am formula and you can have your intention, but the belief will supercharge it even further. It will make that even more powerful. But now let's say it's hard for you to sit there and, without being in denial, saying, I believe this. Then that's where visualization comes in. If it's hard for you to believe something, use visualization as a practice, because what you can see is a whole lot easier to believe. I'll give you a little weird example of how I've used visualization in the past. I don't know why, but every time I rent a car, there's always this vision that I'm going to get into a horrible car crash. I don't know why. I don't know why. Maybe because it's either something in my mind or, something's going to happen. Or the something in my mind is going to make the something happen. All of those are valid. So the one thing I do anytime that a weird, irrational, whatever sort of fear comes up, whether it's rational or not, or valid or not, however you define that, what I always do, I understand that that's my belief. For God knows what reason, that's what just happened. So let me use my visualization to change that timeline of the belief that I just had, that I just experienced. So in this situation, the last time this happened, I was in Costa Rica. I rented a car, and I was sure I'm going to get into a car crash. So I sat there for about a minute, closed my eyes, and I visualized myself returning the car with a big smile on my face, scratch-free. Everything was great. And that's exactly what happened. Now, that's a fun example that doesn't prove anything, but it's something that you can use along the way when it comes to belief and visualization. Using visualization is huge. It's huge when it comes to helping your body heal itself. There was that movie Heal. I think it was in the movie Heal, or one of them, where there was a man that had a fractured spine, one of those movies. And he said for months at a time, he would sit down. I think it was like 3 or 4 months straight. They told him, you're paralyzed. You can't do anything. You're done for the rest of your life. And he sat there, and all he did was believe and visualize his spine reformulating and coming back together. And about 3 to 4 months later, that's exactly what happened. So that shows you the power of belief and visualization. All of these things are valid. When you take these things and put them together, they become even more powerful. So you can use the I am formula. You can use your intention. You can use your visualization. You can use your belief. You can use them separately. But if you can, why not use them together? It makes them a whole lot more powerful. I would say that every single thing that I've experienced over the past probably 3 or 4 years, short period of time, in terms of like success, if you want to call it, was because of those things, not because of anything else. And how I came down to that conclusion was I sat there and I said, listen, how did this happen? I came to a certain point and I said, what just happened over the past year that changed my life that much, that brought me from here to a place that I really wanted to be and beyond? And I said, there must be an order here. There must be an order. Let's find the order. Let's look at what that order is. So I started sitting. I actually went to Costa Rica. This was when I thought I was going to crash. I went to Costa Rica, and I went on a silent retreat for 7 days. By myself, I was in the jungle. I was in this eco-village sort of thing, and I went full caveman. I was like barefoot, eating with my hands, half naked the whole time. It was great. It was awesome. And I sat there, and they told me I shouldn't think because we were doing like Vipassana. I just said, screw it, I can't do that. That's not going to happen. I'm going to sit there and figure out and reverse engineer this whole thing with a clear mind. And throughout that 7-day period was when I wrote The Language of Energy. That's when that book was written, in that period of time specifically. Because there is a process of reverse engineering everything that you do. And if you reverse engineer something that you saw that was successful, it wasn't successful by chance. If something succeeded, ask yourself, what did I do to get to those points? And then copy and paste the formula. And then beyond copy and pasting the formula, build upon the formula. Because if you can perfect one part of the formula, then you can build upon it and make it better and better and better. So it started with SIP, then it went to IBV. That was the whole idea of then the two formulas coming together. So that's the internal part through words specifically. through thoughts, through emotions. The external part is very simple. What you surround yourself with, and by the way, the internal part and the external part are the same, expressed differently. So why do I like that? Because the difference of flying a single prop plane or flying a plane with 2 engines, or maybe 4 engines. If one goes down, you could still fly. But if you only have knowledge and awareness on the internal, then you don't have something else to lean back on if you don't know how to do the internal work. So because I had trouble on both sides, I had to figure out the other side of saying there's got to be another way to do this. So that was the internal side, specifically with words, thoughts, and all that. The external side says, okay, if my thoughts are a reflection of my life, then one way down the cycle is the internal, but the reflection of my life is also the reflection of my thoughts. So if I just look around me, I'll understand the program of my mind. If I look at the job that I have, if I look at the relationships that I'm in, if I look at anything, anywhere from health to financials to well-being to wellness to everything across the board, to the music that you like, to the art that's on your wall in your home. All those things have an impact on you whether you understand it or not. And when you understand it, suddenly you start understanding a lot about yourself. That's the point over here. So if the external world is a reflection of the program of your mind, then how do we look at the external world in a way that we can read the program of our mind? So I'll give a few pieces here. Let's start with something that I like to call your zone. Your zone is where you spend the most amount of time throughout your day while you're awake. Because that thing will have the largest and most powerful effect on your vibration of being. What do you do is your zone, your bedroom? Is it your office? Is it your classroom if you're a teacher? Is it your, whatever it is. Your zone is the time that you spend the most of your time in. Obviously, if you're going to, spend time with drug addicts 24/7, you're probably going to get closer to that direction. It's not going to have a positive impact on you if you want to live a very clean life. That wouldn't be productive. If you were listening to music that wasn't reflecting the life that you wanted to live, whatever that is, then it's your doing of what you're doing, because the music you listen to is a vibration that impacts your being. The food you consume is a vibration that impacts your being. The people you spend time with is a vibration that impacts your being. And their actions are extremely important to get you to the point of, am I in the best place that I want to be in? Am I surrounding myself with people who I aspire to be like? There are some people who like spending time with people that person feels they're better than them. And that's not a productive way to live, because it may fulfill some sort of void. But for example, I like living the exact opposite. I love surrounding myself with people that are like, teach me something new, show me something new, be better, show me how to, I'll give you a perfect example. Robert Edward Grant, I had lunch with him the other day. The man's a genius. I'm sitting at the table, I don't even know what the hell the guy's saying. I was in shock. But that's fun, because I'm looking at the guy and I'm saying, you're a very good role model. Somebody that I like to aspire to be like in my own way. And when you do that, there's this exchange of gifts. So there's two ways. There's with your external reality, accepting and wow, that wow factor when you see somebody that's just doing incredible work in the world. And then there's jealousy. One way, the acceptance way, will allow you to exchange the gifts with that person without even speaking about it. You just have an exchange. The jealousy will not only lead you to hurt yourself and that person, but it blocks the exchange between you and the person. Because you're saying, oh, why do they have more money than me? Why do they have more this than me? Why are they this and I don't have this? Again, based on the laws we already spoke about, it's obvious what that will do. But more than just what we spoke about, it literally, imagine there's always an exchange going on right now between you and me, okay? For example, just a one-on-one connection. That will stop. The gifts will stop with jealousy and envy in a negative way, and the gifts will flow both ways. with acceptance and wow, and you're amazing, and I got to learn, because how'd you do that? So that's a very important part of learning how to use your external reality to your benefit. Surround yourself with people who, for lack of a better phrase, are better than you. Not better than you in an egotistical way. But if you're doing this and they're doing that, it's great, because that's going to help you level up. It could be in business, it could be in health, it could be in wealth, it could be in meditation, it could be in whatever you want it to be. The principle remains the same. The exact opposite is true also. If you want to, get some big muscles in the gym, and you spend time with people that have never been to the gym, it's probably not going to happen. And naturally, if you keep going to the gym, you'll probably start getting those friends that are going to the gym with you. It's normal. It's like our day-to-day of how we live. We're just breaking down the simple or the obvious into something very simple, because it's things we don't pay attention to. So with that, from now the art on your wall, there was somebody that I was speaking to once, and she told me, she's like, I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm never going to have a partner in my life. And I was in her home. And I'm looking around her home, and every picture was a woman by herself. I'm like, dude, look around you. No wonder. So she's like, what do you mean? I said, it's not even something you're conscious of. This was a program that was, went very, very deep that you weren't aware of. And it's reflecting all around you. So throw that picture away or sell it. Or paint somebody next to her. Let's see what happens. So, that's still in process. But that again, a funny story of how those things work, of using your external reality as something that's productive. So the best way to do that, now that we understand the big picture, is your zone. Your zone is basically the place you spend the most time in. Let's say you want to stop drinking, you want to stop smoking, you want to eat a certain, whatever it is, whatever your things are that you desire to do, whatever that may be. We still live in a world where you can't really take that away from all of your surroundings, because there's the private domain and the public domain. You're going to go into restaurants, there's going to be a bunch of people doing things that you may not want to do. You can't stop that, so don't resist that. What I would say is the time that you spend the most of your time, the place that you spend the most of your time in your zone, curate that place to be a reflection of exactly not who you are, but who you aspire to be. So that means if you want to stop smoking, there's no cigarettes allowed in that room. You still like smoking, do it outside. Never bring it into that room. Over time, you're going to come to a point where you're not going to want it anymore, because that room has more power than the cigarette that you're smoking outside. Why? Because you're spending enough time in that room where it does what we said the hand does in the sand. Just like the words imprint, that room will imprint. And that's a very simple and simplified, of course, way to overcome things that are even addictive. A lot of people say, well, this is bad, I need to stop. No, that's going to make it stronger. You can't stop something you're not ready to stop. It's not going to happen. And if you do, then I would probably even argue that the emotional torture that you're putting yourself through is more unhealthy than that thing that you're trying to stop, because you're resisting yourself internally. So the key is, instead of resisting yourself internally, how do we enjoy what we want while getting to the point that we want to be at in our lives? And it's a very deep question, but it's not that complicated if you have the tools and you understand how to use them. Use that room to imprint you consciously, and continue doing those things that we call your vices, and watch how your vices will no longer be your vices. It could take a week, it could take a year, it could take 5 years. But if you keep going and keep repeating and keep sitting in this room because that's where you work or whatever it is, over time, here's the difference that's going to happen. You're not going to say, I want to stop X. You're just not going to want it. And that's the difference between resisting an addiction and rising above an addiction. It's a game of energy. You learn how to play the game, you win. That's the idea of how to be an artist in this world. That's not just taking paint and throwing it, even though some of the best ones do that. But that's not just taking paint and throwing it. But an artist that's sitting there with techniques of an understanding of how to move the brush and how to mix the colors and how to fade and X, Y, and Z. That's the idea of what we're talking about over here. So to recap, big picture, and we'll move into questions. You got your internal and your external. Your internal, there's much more than just words and thoughts and emotions, but that's what I chose to focus on today. And the words, thoughts, and emotions are broken into those two formulas that we spoke about, two-part formula. Part number one is your I am, S-I-P, SIP for the acronym. Subject that you focus on, implication on that subject, and are you stating all of that in the present tense? Number two is IBV, intention, belief, visualization. Use all those 6 parts and those 2 formulas combined to reach a more powerful, call it probability, a more powerful way of accessing, not creating, but accessing the experience that already exists, the reality that already exists. And that ties back into the way that we started this lecture and the way that we're going to end it, which are the 2 most important laws that I believe are the 2 most important laws in the world. And that is the law of conservation, that energy cannot be created or destroyed, and the law of vibration, you experience what you are in resonance with. That brings us to the external reality that ties back into all of what was just said. Use your external reality as a reflection of your internal reality. And there's one little trick that I'll give you an example of what I actually mean. Let's say that you have a very cluttered mind. And it happens to me all the time. There's too many things going on. I can't think clearly. It's like, what do I do? Generally, when your internal reality feels cluttered, look at your place. Look at your space. It's always messy. The bed may not be made. There's probably a drawer with a bunch of nonsense that's been building up over there. So how do we use the external reality to rebalance the internal, all that stuff going on? Start cleaning your room. That's what I do. When I have a cluttered mind, so I don't know how to get rid of this. I can't sit down and meditate. I'm just going to go clean the room. And that's a form of meditation. So you clean the room, you wash the dishes, you do things that are cleansing in the external reality, physically putting things away in their proper place, and naturally, you will see very, very quickly that the internal clutter in your mind will start reorganizing itself without you doing anything. Because the external is a part of the internal, and the internal is a part in the external. Is a part of the external. They're one and the same. So it's the idea of when you don't know how to do something here, just go to its opposite, its reflection, and do it there. And if you don't know how to do it there, then go to its reflection and its opposite and do it on the other side. That's the beauty of the 2-engine plane. One doesn't work, you still got the other one to work with. So those are the basics of what I've sort of learned when it comes to manifestation by reverse engineering what's been done over the past few years. I'm sure that it's just the beginning, because there's a lot more that comes from that I learn every single day, and I hope to continue learning and evolving and sharing and writing and figuring it out from there. So thank you very much.